Can you explain that further? I mean, like, it is pretty amazing that we have these dinosaurs in our history of our
Yes.
planet. That is so extraordinary.
In the history that you're creating from your present.
So this change in our history, what level of vibration would our civilization need to be at to have a completely different version of Earth that didn't have dinosaurs?
Or had different kinds of animals that weren't necessarily exhibiting or reflecting the idea of predation in the way that you experience today, would be above 200,000 cycles per second in your overall frequency.
And what percentage of our planet population is at that frequency level presently, would you say?
Less than 2%.
And on balance, then, the population is functioning at what?
You want an average for the entire collective of your planet?
Yes.
Somewhere around 60 to 70,000 cycles per second.
Okay. And so will contact be limited to people who are functioning over 200,000 cycles per second, or just in the initial stages, those individuals would perhaps have contact first?
It might be that they will experience certain kinds of contact before others, but that can help others raise their vibration, knowing that that's going on as well. It doesn't have to be exactly 200,000 for there to be some form of open contact. And again, remember, it depends on what you're having contact with. But the idea is it can start somewhere around 150 to 160,000 cycles per second, minimally, slowly, and it can build. What we are talking about is that above 200,000 cycles per second, there would be something considered to be normal, constant, open contact.
And so for an individual to have contact with you, what kind of frequency level would they need to have in order to have a good experience?
At this particular point, again, definitely above 200,000 cycles per second, probably closer to 215,000 cycles. At this point.
And would one of the key things of individuals functioning in that level is that they are genuinely able to stay in a positive state no matter what they encounter?
Yes, because choosing anything else simply doesn't make sense to a being operating on that level.
And their consciousness would be much more clear in terms of all of their, or most of their beliefs, or important beliefs.
Let me put it to you in an extremely overly simplistic kind of way. Would you be willing right now to punch yourself in the face as hard as you can? Yes or no?
No.
Well, it would be that kind of an obvious choice to those operating above 200,000 cycles per second that they simply wouldn't choose something that doesn't make sense for them, that they don't prefer. It's simply not on the list of choices. Yes, they know it's always a possibility, but the probability is so low that they simply would not choose it in a practical day-to-day sense. Just like you would not choose to punch yourself in the face.
So part of our challenge is to let go of the ideas of self-recrimination and guilt, I suppose.
Yes.
The ideas of what it truly means to be spiritual.
To be a spirit. To be a spirit, not spiritual, to be a spirit in physical terms.
And what kinds of emotions would that eliminate?
You would no longer choose to feel the idea of fear or sadness in that sense, or anger or hate. Those kinds of things simply wouldn't make sense to a being operating on that level. Again, in much the same way that you have chosen not to punch yourself in the face. It would be that visceral of a choice. It would not feel correct. It would feel damaging as physically punching yourself, to choose the idea of hate and sorrow and sadness and fear, so on and so forth.
And on this level, we are actually able to tolerate huge amounts of dissonance and seeing things on television that are violent or unpleasant, and not feel what we would feel if we were above 200,000 cycles per second, when we would immediately disconnect from that kind of input, I suppose.
You would either disconnect from the input or you would know how to use it to positive effect.
So that's the other piece. If you are going to see it, then you know how to use it to get a positive effect.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So what about the idea that of false accusation? You know how you were saying that if someone judges you, then, you know, if you didn't believe it was true on some level, you wouldn't react to it.
Yes, if you are doing it out of the idea of teaching lessons to other people about those things and how to be more discerning about what is and is not true, then you can remain relatively neutral, knowing that you have made a choice to attract such a thing into your life as a lesson for others to learn.
Wow. Wow. And if you ask for help, will you always receive guidance, or are there circumstances where help won't be given? And what would those circumstances be?
There are no such circumstances. Help is always given. But as we have said, you have to learn to pay attention to it and not insist that it must come in a certain form. Because it may be being given to you, but you may be insisting that it should come some other way and therefore not recognizing the help that you're actually getting. So it's never that you are not given help. You are being given all the help and assistance you can possibly be given all the time. It's just that you haven't necessarily been taught to pay attention to that because of the belief systems within you.
I think there's some stories about those ideas of God sending help and the individual not recognizing that
Correct.
it's coming from God and thinking it has to look a certain way for it
Yes.
to be coming
Yes.
from God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So help is never denied, ever.
And let's see. If our soul group agrees, can we incarnate as another ET race on another planet or a ship?
Sure, why not?
So is there such a thing as our soul group? What is our soul group?
Your soul family, or those that you deem are exploring a certain theme together. You can decide to do that as a group.
Does that mean that with each life that you experience yourself as, you have a different soul family?
Could be so. Just depends on the themes you're exploring. Now, you might generally keep a lot of them because souls are very flexible and willing to explore a lot of different things. So, euphemistically, it might be the same soul family who are willing to explore different themes together. Just like you decide as a group of friends or family to go on vacation one time to this place and the next to another place. You can still be the so-called same soul family, but you can be agreeing to have different experiences together.
So you've talked a lot about how it's important to take action in order to ground the energy of your passion.
And also to respond properly to the higher mind that sent you the passion to begin with.
So in the case of someone like Buddha, where there was the idea of travels and many journeys within, how do the journeys within fit into what you're describing because of, you know, the insights that people get and all of that kind of?
No matter how many journeys you may take within, remember that the Buddha also expressed the spiritual nature of chopping wood and carrying water, which are physical actions. In other words, don't necessarily segregate the idea of your actions in physical reality as being any less spiritual than the inner journeys you may take. It's always an opportunity to have an outward expression and an outward example of the inner journeys you may take so that others may see through your example in the actions that you take the beauty and information you have discovered from your journeys within. Because you can be inspiring to others with your behavior outwardly, your actions outwardly, based on the journeys you have discovered within.
So it's actually not this or that, it's this and that.
Exactly so.
Okay. Um, and then as far as shifting to different realities,
which you are doing all the time.
right. What does the mechanism of that feel and look like, that shifting?
Well, you're doing it all the time. So what does it feel and look like? It looks like time. It looks like change. It looks like motion. It looks like space. The idea is it's so natural to you, you don't even know you're doing it. So the idea is it really doesn't feel anything like what you would imagine unless you decide to make a larger continuity shift and let go of some of the so-called frames in between one and another that you would normally experience, and be capable of consciously recognizing that you're shifting all the time. And then it might feel like elation, it might feel like disorientation, it might feel like a number of different things. But the idea is that you're doing it all the time. And in the natural sense of the agreement you have made to do it all the time with many others, what does it feel like? Doesn't feel like anything at all because it's natural. As I said, you only really feel the difference when you make a larger change, a larger shift that is a breaking of continuity.
So that's like teleporting almost.
Yes. It is exactly that. Because what you're doing all the time is teleporting from one reality to another. Billions of times per second. It's just that when you teleport or shift to something less expected, based on your understanding of what's expected, of your agreement to what's expected, then you notice the difference.
Can you also explain to us what it means to shift to fourth density and fifth density? Well, no, it's saying to shift to fourth density and fifth dimension. So I'm not sure what.
All right. Fifth dimension is non-physical. It means you're going back into spirit, so to speak, to put it linearly. Fourth density is a physical reality, just a higher vibratory one. And then if you decide to go into spirit, you've gone to not only fifth density, but the fifth dimension. Because again, that's the border between physical and non-physical reality. So fourth density may draw upon fifth dimensional energies, but you're not actually experiencing yourself in the fifth dimension until you're in spirit.
So when you're non-physical, you can still have a linear experience, right?
You can create a linear experience. Yes, you can create that. It's just that time is more malleable and flexible. So you can create whatever you want and experience it sort of linearly, or you can instantaneously experience something because time is not the same kind of factor in spirit that it is in physical reality. In fact, the idea of time is one of the very definitions of physical reality that you impose upon yourself. By shifting to billions of different realities from a particular perspective, you create this side effect, this illusion of time in a linear way. But in spirit, there's no need to do that, but you can do that.
So like for an individual such as yourself that is quasi-physical.
Yes.
Is there this huge demarcation that happens when you become fully non-physical as a spirit and experience other levels of yourself going forward? Because you can still have a linear progression of fifth and sixth and seventh.
Yes, but again, it's experienced very differently in the spirit world. But yes, the demarcation can be quite different, as most people who have near-death experiences describe. Suddenly, you are filled with unconditional love. You understand and know what your life is all about and what you chose. You remember completely and utterly who you are in that sense.
It's a lot to look forward to.
Well, yes, but not meaning to run away from physical reality.
Right. Because we get that theme a lot too, is that the desire to get out of physical reality because it's hard to accept things that are negative, predatory environment, all of these kinds of things.
Yes, but that's a misunderstanding. It's not about getting out of physical reality. It's about allowing you to know you are creating the experience in physical reality so that you can experience your control of what you're creating while physical, knowing that physical reality is an expression of spirit. It's not about getting out of it. It's about rendering physical reality more spiritually.
That's amazing. And the training ground for that is being able to stay in a positive state no matter what you experience, and
Yes.
not letting expectation of how it's supposed to be control the way that you respond to it.
Correct.
All of these kinds of things that you've expressed in the formula.
Yes. So this is a misunderstanding many people on your planet have about the idea of leaving physical reality, getting out of or overcoming physical reality. No. What you need to do is create physical reality in a more spiritual way so that there is less difference between the two.
It's very powerful.
Yes.
This person was saying they were reading a book about angels, and one day rare things happened. When I opened a new chapter and read the title of that chapter, suddenly I felt a gentle breeze. A story came into my head, and I later realized that the story that came into my head was in that chapter. What happened to that person?
You opened up to a higher level of your being, a higher level of your consciousness, saw the template you had laid down for about to read that story. You, in a sense, sensed what it was about ahead of time, so to speak, by tapping into the template you had created in non-physical reality to gain a glimpse of the so-called future, or again, a parallel present. And you had assistance and a greeting from higher level beings, not only your own higher mind, but spirit guides and other beings as well, that reinforce the idea with that so-called gentle breeze that you were in the correct state of being to be able to expand your consciousness and see what you had laid out for yourself.
Someone wanted to know about Sasani beings aiding in human healing. Are there beings in your civilization that participate with us in that way?
A few of them do, yes, although again, this is something that's done very cautiously because we are not allowed to intervene in your experiences beyond a certain point. We will not go into this more deeply.
Okay. And is it possible to circumvent the laws of physics, such as gravity, with your conscious mind and your consciousness?
No, you are not circumventing the laws of physics if you allow yourself to achieve a levitation state that seems to ignore gravity. All you're doing is understanding more deeply what gravity is and taking advantage of that knowledge. It's not about overcoming the laws of physics. It's about understanding the true laws of physics more deeply than your scientists do at the moment, and then utilizing that accelerated knowledge.
And is there another trajectory for Earth where we don't have contact, but it's still a positive Earth?
Absolutely. There are many versions of Earth that have nothing to do with open contact with extraterrestrials, and they're very positively oriented. Anything you can imagine in that sense is most likely being expressed in some version of a parallel reality. So, no, not every Earth has to have open contact with extraterrestrials to be happy.
So there's Earth timelines where the Anunnaki were not involved or the hybridization agenda did not occur. And could you share anything with us about what those kinds of Earths would look like?
Well, as we have already said, the idea of the branches of hominids that were not genetically altered by the Anunnaki simply continue to evolve as Sasquatch. So there are versions of Earth that are filled with Sasquatch. There are no Homo sapiens around at all. That's one effect in one parallel reality.
And as far as the work that's happening now with the hybrids and everything, what does the other Earths look like where we don't become involved in that?
Well, there are many, many, many versions of Earths that are not involved in the hybridization agenda. So you would have to pick and choose which way you want me to describe, because there are thousands upon thousands of versions of Earth that have nothing at all to do with the hybridization agenda.
And they still have a positive outcome.
Yes. Just as many have negative ones. Anything you can imagine.
Okay. So those that are attracted to the information that you're sharing, are probably part of that, and they're at some level they've chosen
Yes.
that version of Earth to
Yeah.
move to
Yes.
a positive way?
Yes.
Okay, because it's always about free will.
If that wasn't the choice, we wouldn't be here talking with you.
Right, I see.
We'd be talking to another Earth, as we are also doing.
How many Earths do you speak with?
Personally, 135, but other members of my species talk to others as well. And that's only on our planet.
Yes, because one person was also asking about why there's really no other Sasani channels that come through or that are doing like you're doing.
There have been, as you know, and there are, but not necessarily in the same way that what we are doing here. There are other ways in which people can bring through Sasani energy without even necessarily knowing that it is Sasani energy because of their own connections to our people. They may not necessarily have a name or a label for it, but they're bringing those energies through because they have a connection to do so. And they have a counterpart in our society that is helping with that. It doesn't always come through vocally.
So the fact that as far as a vocal communication and your role as a first contact specialist, are you in that sense the designated being to communicate with the planet in a verbal sense like this?
With your version of Earth at this time, yes.
So you're kind of the more senior Sasani?
If you want to look at it that way, you can, but that's not exactly accurate the way we look at ourselves. We have a purpose in focusing this version of Earth in a certain way that will help accelerate and perpetuate the idea of open contact for those that are willing to align with that particular vibration. And in that sense, we present less so that you will not necessarily be confused.
That's very helpful.
Yes. This is the way it usually works with most civilizations. At a certain point, they need to focus down to fewer and fewer representations of our energy so that they, again, don't get confused about what vibration they need to align with if they are interested and willing to align with our vibration.
Cool. How do we interpret repeating numbers like 111, 222, etc., if a person's seeing a lot of that?
Yes, well, we have answered this many times. It's the idea of demarcations or road signs that allow someone to know when they get that kind of numerical synchronicity that they are in alignment with the vibration of their higher mind and to come from the feeling that is generated in those moments when they recognize that synchronicity. That's their true vibration. Stay in it. Stay in that magical space. Stay in that feeling and come from that feeling in following your passion in everything you do with regard to that.
And for individuals that are interested in like the hollow earth idea or inner earth civilizations and everything, you've mentioned that these are parallel realities, this not present in ours. What are some beneficial or meaningful ways to connect with those individuals? And does it have relevance, in terms of our...
Well, it can have relevance for certain individuals on your planet, but again, it just depends on their path. So again, if they follow the formula and it's relevant for them, then they will likely encounter those kinds of beings in those parallel realities that many people think is actually physically inside your hollow earth, but isn't, because your earth isn't hollow. But people can go through portals and think that they're inside the earth physically when in fact they have transitioned to a parallel reality that is in its own dimension and has nothing at all to do with being physically inside your planet.
Wow. So can you tell us more about some events that have a high probability of happening in 2023 relating to ET contact?
All right, well, the first thing we wish to say is that many people have a little bit of a misunderstanding in thinking that 2023 is the year of open contact. It's not. It's the beginning of the window of open contact that will take a few years. So the idea is that it will start slowly, but one of the first things you may start to notice is more reporting of UFOs, more closer sightings of UFOs, again, to gauge how used to those sightings you are getting or not. So it can begin with the idea simply of more sightings, closer sightings, seeing how you react or respond to those, and then there may eventually start to be sightings of UFOs on the ground, more sightings of beings from the UFOs temporarily before they take off. Things like this, again, bit by bit, more and more, to get you used to the idea that we are here, that you're not alone. So this is a process. It's not that UFOs will be landing everywhere in 2023. We have never said that. It's the beginning of the window, the beginning of the process that could be a decade long in getting used to the fact that we exist, that we're here, and that you're not alone.
Is it also to the idea that if somebody was from 500 years ago and they came to our civilization and saw planes flying around in the sky and jets, they would be utterly shocked. And for us, the idea of seeing spaceships flying around would be kind of similar to that idea, yes?
For most of you, yes. Not always, but for most of you, yes. Even though many of you think it wouldn't be a paradigm shift in your consciousness, trust us, it will be, because it's not exactly what you think it is. It's not the typical sci-fi scenario. There's other things that go along with it that are multidimensional in nature and multi-leveled in consciousness.
That sounds exciting. Want to say anything more about that?
No.
Okay. And so how is first contact moving forward and accelerating when we have a war like what's happening in Ukraine right now?
Again, you're getting things out of your system. You're putting things on the table to decide what kind of a reality you really prefer to experience. So first you have to see what it is that you don't prefer, so you can more clearly see what it is that you do and take action in that direction. So again, it's no surprise that there may seem to be an increase in what you call negativity and violent action. But again, it's not about that so much as what you decide to do about it.
And will one of the markers that we're ready for open contact be that we don't care that much if it happens or not, because we're enjoying our lives so much as they are and living in a state of high passion and excitement?
Generally speaking, yes, because it's not about the idea of us bringing you what you prefer. It's about the idea of you choosing to live in the moment and follow your passion and create the reality you prefer as an experience, which will then make you more vibrationally compatible with having open contact with beings that are of a similar frequency. So yes, it's not about the idea of us rescuing you or saving you. It's about you bringing yourself to a safe level, a same level, a sincere, honest, understandable level of appreciation, gratitude, and living your life fully in joy that will actually do the trick and make you more accessible to those beings, such as our civilization, who then can find you more easily because you are more vibrationally compatible with us.
So I guess the idea that the more that we bring heaven to earth,
yes,
the more a side effect will be that we have contact with higher dimensional beings and ETs.
The more you create heaven on earth, the more you can interact with all the denizens of heaven.
It's wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Is the moon hollow and used as a base for the Galactic Federation to discuss Earth topics?
There are bases on your moon from different ET civilizations. The moon is not hollow per se in the way that you think of that. But there are large caverns, there are large areas of underground bases on the moon.
Are there bases on the dark side of the moon?
The opposite side of the moon that faces you is not always dark. Yes, there are bases on that side, but it's a misunderstanding to say that it's always dark. It's only dark in the sense that you can't see it from Earth, because only one side of your moon is always facing your planet because it is in gravitational lock.
When they went to the moon, did they become aware of any of those bases?
They became aware of the presence of extraterrestrials on the moon, yes.
Hmm. So our returning to the moon, how does
Yes.
that fit in?
It fits in wonderfully.
It's the perfect timing, huh?
Yes, it is. Now, it could have happened sooner, but again, you had some things to work through. So for what it is and the process you're going through, it is perfect timing.
And the fact that we have telescopes now that are incredibly clear and able to penetrate such deep levels of space is reflective of the idea that we are getting more and more ready to experience what's available.
Yes, yes, because as we said before, it is your own telescopes and your probes that will discover the idea that life does exist elsewhere. And even if it's simple life, the idea will open you up psychologically to accept the fact that life exists elsewhere and that you're not alone. And that will make a major difference in your collective consciousness.
And back to the idea of contact, when people reach that higher state of being in excess of 200,000 cycles per second, and they're ready for open contact, how might that happen if they live in an urban environment versus being in a remote place?
There have been many contacts that have happened in urban environments. Just because they're in an urban environment doesn't mean that they can't be private.
So similar to what happened with the channel, where his family members that were present with him in the vehicle were able to see your ship, but no one else could.
Some others did, but most did not. So yes, it can happen that way. Or again, remember, beings can simply appear inside of your house or your apartment. No one outside has to know what's going on inside.
If the gift of open contact is all of our true history, and we get to decide how we want to relate to that, then are we not currently living the result of what we call our true history?
You are currently living the result of the past you are creating now. So when we say that you're going to be given the gift of your true history, we're talking about a level of existence where you'll be creating the history that is necessary for you to receive in that version of Earth.
When you mentioned before that there are other parallel Earths that you're interacting with,
Yes.
Can you tell us about one of them that would be a lot different from ours?
One is primarily based on the idea of experimenting with shifting borders. In other words, on a semi-annual cycle, the idea of so-called borders is really just a notion of experimenting with different social structures for a period of time and then dissolving those borders and shifting again to different forms of experimentation of social structures. That is one of the versions of Earth that we are interacting with.
And as far as the idea of location of an atom,
Yes.
This person's saying they're confused regarding the principle of location being an aspect of an object in space-time.
Yes.
Where is the demarcation of an atom's location point stored? And is it in the electron cloud, the nucleus? And also, how do you keep an atom still in order to assess its location between 2 points?
We don't have to keep it still. It doesn't operate that precisely. We operate within the idea of the quantum uncertainty, and that's sufficient enough. We allow physical reality on a quantum level to exist as it does. The vibrations are so minute, they do not prevent us from simply creating a matrix of locations based on a 0 point that we start with, which is a particular point on our planet. So the idea is that we simply extrapolate out of that what the likely locational variables would be from that point forward, stretching out into space-time.
Okay, and a long time ago, you gave us what are called the sacred circuits.
Yes.
And one person is asking if you could tell us exactly how the sacred circuitry affects our brain just by watching them, and
Well,
what the
again,
mechanism that's taking place.
Yes, again, it is a permission slip like anything, and those that are willing to allow themselves to shift their neurology into ways that are more vibrationally compatible with extending their senses into other dimensions will gravitate to the sacred circuits as a representation of the kind of shifts they already wish to make. The sacred circuits simply provide an idea or a template for them to align with that would allow the circuitry in their brain to shift in the way that they say they prefer it to. So again, remember, sacred circuits don't cause anything. They are a reflection, like anything in physical reality, of a idea you already have in your consciousness, but don't necessarily know what particular permission slip to utilize in order to accomplish that. The permission slip of the sacred circuits allows for more ease in understanding, oh, these are going to allow me to change the circuitry in my brain more easily because they represent that idea.
Okay, and this person is saying that they recently discovered moldavite, and it's the only crystal that they've seen have such a dramatic effect on people, both physically and mentally. Is there anything you can tell us about moldavite that would help us understand that?
It strongly represents the idea of increasing possibility and probability of open contact because moldavite has come through space. So it carries the vibration of extraterrestrial frequencies with it. And thus, in recognizing that, those that are primarily oriented to the concept of extraterrestrial contact will feel as a permission slip an especially strong pull to that particular mineral because it represents that idea of connection to space. All right?
Okay. And how would you recommend that we think of the Anunnaki, since there was a renegade group of them that helped to create us? And what would be an appropriate way to relate to them? Should we be grateful for them? What?
The way to relate to this idea is to save it for another time.
Oh, that question.
Yes, and that will be enough for today.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. You know, we all really appreciate these interactions and all the information you share and being able to spend some time with you. So thank you so much.
It is our passion and our pleasure. And now please prepare yourselves for the meditation that goes along with the window, the door, and the gate to increase the probability of open contact for those that choose to align with the frequency. Enjoy. And now we would like you all to become, if you wish, relaxed, breathe deeply and easily, and let go of the cares of the day. And use your imagination. Become comfortable. You may use whatever visual or auditory cues you wish to add to this, if you do wish to add them, or you can simply go along with what we are about to describe. So, allow yourself now, at this point, while still breathing deeply, gently, regularly, and feeling relaxed. You may have your eyes open or closed, whatever you wish. Imagine that you are in a house. It can be the house that you actually are in, or it can be another house. It doesn't really matter. But the house is Earth, where you have been living all your life. You have not ventured outside this house yet. You have lived your entire life in this house. All of the information that we have shared with you in 40 orbits has allowed you to open the curtains on the window, open the blinds, lift them up, and see through the window to the outside, recognizing that there is a yard outside of this house, recognizing that there is a fence at the edge of the yard and that that fence has a gate in it, but you have never ventured out that. You have now glimpsed through the window, which you haven't even opened yet. You have glimpsed the yard, the fence, the gate, and know that you must walk through a door to get out there, but you have not done that yet. For now, allow yourself to look out the window, to see the yard with its trees and grass, or whatever way, shape, or form you wish to imagine the yard, and see the fence with its gate in whatever way, shape, or form you wish to imagine the fence or wall with its gate. But know that you have not been out there, and you have not been beyond it. Allow yourself at this particular moment, in being in this house, to turn around and look at the house. Look at all the rooms you have been so familiar with for all this time. The rooms you have lived in and loved in, experienced process in, positive and negative. And know that this house has held you in its embrace. It is a familiar place, a comfortable place, a warm place that has allowed you to experience many things, both positive and negative, a place for you to grow, to learn. But now you know it is approaching the time when you are willing to venture outside this house. It doesn't mean you cannot go back in, but you realize that you have always lived in this house and have never been beyond it. So for now, as you peer out the window, allow yourself to imagine that you are beginning to notice, even if only in ghostly or shadowy form, or out of the corner of your eye, something that is not quite there, that there are other beings out there that peer in the window in a flash and disappear again. They're there and then they're not. This ties into why we gave you the exercise of putting a cardboard cutout of a hybrid or a gray outside your real window in your real home, to catch them out of the corner of your eye now and then, so they become more real to you, that they are there, even though you can't always see them. This connects to this port now, where you are looking out this portal, out this window, through the glass, seeing something peer in now and then, and whether or not you are startled, or whether or not it makes you smile, or whether or not it gives you a little fright, doesn't matter. You are beginning to recognize that there is something out there, beyond the window, outside the house, in the yard, and beyond it. Fleeting glimpses are fine. Or if something appears very solidly, that's fine too. But it brings with it the recognition and the realization that there are other things out there, other beings out there, other consciousnesses out there, other lives out there. Be they past, present, or future, it's all now. Be they extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, or simply parallel reality beings, it's all now, and it's all right. You are just beginning to recognize the depth and richness and complexity of the tapestry that exists outside the house. Allow yourself very gently, to open the window, to spread it open, raise it, whatever way it works. You can even break the glass if you wish. But open it so that the air comes in and you start to breathe the outside air for the first time. And you start to sense new aromas, new scents, new realizations and recognitions of other realities, new realms, new atmospheres that blend with your own inside the house now. Allow yourself to get used to this idea of this rarefied air, this mix, this blending of many different atmospheres. Allow yourself to breathe it in deeply. Do not be afraid. It will not suffocate you. It may feel thick at first. It may feel too thin at first. Or it may be just right. But allow yourself to know that you can breathe it. It can sustain you. And as you do so and get used to this and continue to breathe deeply in this experience, in this meditation, in this visualization, in this creative imagination, you feel yourself growing bolder, stronger, and more willing to go outside. And so you walk to the door and you open the door. And the light floods in, and at first you may shield your eyes, but you'll get used to it. You'll get used to the different colors and frequencies of light that are outside in the yard, and you step out through the door into the yard. And now your world has expanded beyond the house. And you look at the yard and all the things in it, the trees, the flowers, the grass, the rocks, whatever may be there. You start to realize this yard has been there all along, though you have never stepped out into it. You have never stepped through that door, but now you have. And you look at it and appreciate all of the beauty that's in this yard, all of the interesting things, some of which you may or may not even recognize. But it is in your yard, and you have stepped into it. You have realized that it is a part of your house, a part of your reality. And it transitions you to what is beyond the gate. But for now, you allow yourself to absorb what is in the yard and appreciate and explore and examine and breathe in all that is in the yard, whatever it may be. And you start to feel invigorated and refreshed and uplifted and energized and powerful, knowing you have expanded your reality, expanded your universe beyond the house in which you have always lived and never left before. By having opened the window and breathed in the new air, by having opened the door and let in the new light. And now you walk to the fence, the wall, whatever it may be, and you walk to the gate. And you feel its textures and know that it has always been there to act as a barrier of protection for you until you were ready to go beyond it. It has defined your world and the limits that you have imposed within it. At first believing that nothing existed beyond this wall, beyond this fence, beyond the gate. But now knowing that if there is a yard beyond the house, that there also might be something beyond the gate. And you allow yourself, gently, cautiously at first, tentatively, to open the latch in the gate and swing the gate open and step out. And there before you, filling your senses, expanding your senses, almost in disbelief, but believing it because you see it and experience it, are the sights and sounds of all of the cars whizzing by on the roads that stretch off to infinity. They have always been there, but you have never seen them before like this. The colors, the sounds, the sights, the feelings of all these beings going to and fro. And you look up, and more vehicles plying the air, the planes, the helicopters, the blimps. And you allow yourself to take it all in and see and know that there is a much bigger world beyond this house of beings going about their own business, now and then stopping to look at you and recognize you and nod to you and welcome you into this new world, into this expanded sense of reality, into this multiverse of the comings and goings of an infinite number of beings. And you stand there outside the gate, on your sidewalk, on your grass, and take it all in. Knowing that is there now, you can go back through the gate, back through the yard, back through the door, and into your house, for now. But knowing that's all there, and that you are free to look out this window, free to walk out the door, free to pass through the gate, to take in and behold this expanded, infinite reality, this multiverse of all that is. And you are brimming with excitement to explore it. brimming with excitement to invite it into your house to share, to exchange, to bring it in as guests, as companions, as friends. Invite it in for tea, invite it in for lunch, invite it in for dinner, and invite it in to dream and share with you. The infinite imagination of all that is in its expressions, its infinite expressions of all the reflections it is. You are now back in your house, but it has a different feeling now because you know it is connected to many other houses, many other buildings, many other roads that lead to infinite places of delight and curiosity and imagination. And you anticipate with great joy the journeys that you will begin to take, knowing there is now more to this reality than just your house, than just the yard, than just the gate. We will now take you on those journeys in the months to come through different exercises and different meditations and different permission slips. But for now, rest easy in the comfort of your own home, knowing that your idea of home has been many times expanded beyond just the house of earth. But for now, relax and absorb what you have just seen and experienced. Let it all in so that you may properly prepare yourself for the journeys to come, into the beyond, into the infinite, and into the unknown. Breathe deeply and be comfortable and welcome home to your new home. Our unconditional love to you all. Be at peace and be excited about the journeys to come. Aveo and good day.